The impeachment inquiry heats up at our nation's capital with new testimony. A ruling on a Bakersfield police officer-involved shooting is released. And the Fort Worth officer who killed a woman in her home resigns from the department. This is 17 News at noon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maddie Jansen. We begin with the impeachment inquiry against President Donald Trump. This morning, a Republican congressman was kicked out of testimony by former Russia aide Fiona Hill, the testimony by that former aide, because he's not a member of any committees interviewing Hill. However, Republican Matt Gaetz says it's another example of how the investigation has become a clown show. Here's NBC's Hallie Jackson.
Congress back in town and back to work this morning with key testimony expected today from Fiona Hill, a former top advisor on Russia and Ukraine, expected to say Rudy Giuliani sidestepped official channels to try to dig up dirt on the Bidens in Ukraine. Later in the week, it's another diplomat in the spotlight, Gordon Sondland, the ambassador to the European Union who plans to defy State Department orders by appearing. Lawmakers want to know more about his involvement with Ukraine, especially considering that country's not even in the EU.
Do you understand why the ambassador to EU was the point person on Ukraine?
Okay. I don't.
You have not gotten an answer to that question?
No. It doesn't make sense because obviously he shouldn't be.
Sondland's the one-time Trump donor who, in a text message exchange, defended the president when a State Department staffer wrote it's crazy to withhold security assistance for help with a political campaign. Sondland, after speaking with President Trump, responding, the president has been crystal clear, no quid pro quos of any kind, adding, I suggest we stop the back and forth by text. Now, NBC News has learned Sondland plans to tell Congress he does not know why U.S. military assistance to Ukraine was held up, nor who ordered it, according to a source familiar with his testimony. That's all but certain to raise questions about whether the president was telling the truth when he denied dangling military aid in exchange for a political favor. The president, for his part, keeping up his unsubstantiated attacks on Joe Biden and his son, Hunter.
Then he flies into China and he takes out $1.5 billion.
The former vice president's son speaking out for the first time in a new statement through his lawyer, saying despite no evidence of wrongdoing, he will step down from the board of a Chinese investment company by the end of the month, a move seemingly intended to rob the president of a key talking point.
No one has asserted my son did a single thing wrong. No one has asserted that I have done anything wrong except a lying president.
NBC's Hallie Jackson reporting. Back here at home, a Bakersfield Police Department review board is calling an officer-involved shooting that seriously wounded an accused carjacker within department policy and state law. You may remember last week, Anthony Ramirez and a co-defendant filed a lawsuit against the city alleging excessive force and battery on the part of the detectives. This all stems from an incident in February in the 2500 block of Kentucky Street. Detectives went to arrest Ramirez in connection with a carjacking and opened fire. Ramirez was wounded. He's facing charges of carjacking and assault with a deadly weapon on a peace officer. BPD says all shots fired by detectives Ryan McWilliams and Isaac Ailman were within department policy. Both detectives have been returned to full duty. The suit alleges the Bakersfield Police Department inadequately trains, supervisors, and disciplines its officers and has grossly inadequate procedures for reporting and investigating officer misconduct. We're learning more about several crashes involving pedestrians. Police say a man was hit by a car around 8:30 last night on Wilson Road near Larson Lane in South Bakersfield. Paramedics rushed the man to the hospital where he's in critical condition. The man driving the car who hit the pedestrian was not hurt. He stayed at the scene and is cooperating with officers. No word on if drugs or alcohol were factors in the crash. Another pedestrian died after a crash in Wasco. This one happened just after 7 last night on Highway 43 north of Jackson Avenue. The Kern County Sheriff's Office says a car hit the person who was in the road. No word on why that person was in the road. And in Bakersfield, a person died yesterday afternoon after being hit by a train. It happened just north of Edison Highway at Cooley and Eucalyptus Drives. KCSO says the victim is possibly a male in his 20s. That person has not been identified and the incident is still under investigation. Meantime, another investigation after a gruesome discovery in a backyard over the weekend. Bakersfield police got called on Saturday to a home on Terrace Way near South End Street in South Bakersfield. That's when they found a man dead in a backyard. Officers initially thought someone shot that man, but now police are unsure. Officers are investigating the man's death as suspicious. Firefighters continue to get the upper hand on a massive wildfire burning in the Southland. The Saddle Ridge fire sparked Thursday night near Sylmar and quickly spread to the Granada Hills and Porter Ranch areas. Flames forced thousands to evacuate, but those orders were lifted over the weekend. The fire also shut down several major freeways, including I-5. So far, the fire has scorched nearly 8,000 acres and is 43% contained. At least 2 people have died, one of them a forest ranger who was patrolling affected areas. Both deaths were reportedly from heart attacks. Fire investigators say burning trash dumped along a road is to blame for a fire that started at a Riverside County mobile home park. So far, the Sandalwood fire has burned just over 1,000 acres near Cali Mesa. Flames have destroyed 74 structures, including homes. At least 2 people living at that mobile home park were killed. One of them was identified by the Riverside coroner as an 89-year-old woman. CAL FIRE says the fire is 94% contained. All right, so we're watching fire weather. We had a lot of it last week with the heat and low humidity. What are we looking at this week, Kev?
Well, we have no watches or warnings for us, so that is great news. Still clear out there, and air quality moderate as we go throughout today. Right now, we are in the 70s. Yesterday, we ended the day at 86 and pretty close to the normal of 81. As we take a look at the numbers now, 73, 21% on the humidity. That's higher, and a calm wind out there for us. As we take a look at the hour-by-hour forecast, we're expecting upper 70s. There will be lower 80s by the time this is all said and done this afternoon, and then slipping down into the 60s tonight. Tehachapi, 66 degrees, 19% on the humidity. You have a light breeze out of the northwest at 10. As we take a look at your temperatures throughout the day, upper 60s, some lower 70s, and then, yes, back into those chilly 40s as we approach the evening. I'll have much more on our forecast. That's coming up in just a little bit.
Thanks, Kev. One of several bills signed over the weekend by Governor Gavin Newsom will have high schoolers hitting snooze a little longer. This session, the governor signed 870 bills. One of the bills bans public high schools from starting the day before 8:30 in the morning and middle schools from starting classes before 8 a.m. But yesterday's action included more vetoes and signatures, mostly for things Newsom says the state can't afford. Things like school districts, charter schools, and community colleges giving 6 weeks of full pay for pregnancy-related leaves of absences. Right now, teachers use vacation days for pregnancy leave. Making news around the nation, the police officer who shot a woman to death in her own home in Fort Worth, Texas this weekend has resigned amid calls for his arrest. The shooting comes weeks after Dallas police officer Amber Geiger was sentenced to prison for shooting her unarmed neighbor. Gabe Gutierrez is in Fort Worth with the story.
This morning, a community demanding answers.
She wasn't killed. She was murdered by the Fort Worth Police Department.
And the family devastated.
These are the people that's supposed to protect us, and they're not doing so.
As new details emerge about the shooting death of 28-year-old Tatiana Jefferson, shot in her own home.
The tragic loss of life has major ramifications for all involved.
I'm calling about my neighbor. Well, the front doors have been open since 10 o'clock.
Fort Worth police say that 2 a.m. call from concerned neighbor James Smith to a non-emergency number prompted a dispatcher to send an officer to investigate. The white male officer, who never identifies himself as an officer, is seen on body cam walking around the outside of the home, shining a flashlight on the walls and doors. He then approaches a side window and opens fire within seconds of drawing his gun.
Put your hands up! Show me your hands!
Jefferson was pronounced dead at the scene. Police say a gun was found inside the home, but it's not clear whether it was anywhere near Jefferson. Her family's attorney says Jefferson was simply at home babysitting her 8-year-old nephew, who described what happened.
He suddenly heard some people in the bushes outside. She went to the window to see what was going on, and moments later she was shot.
Jefferson's sister Amber is the boy's mother.
What kind of training is that? What kind of training is that? You don't announce yourself, you don't...
The officer involved in the shooting has been placed on administrative leave. Later today, he's scheduled to be interviewed by the department's Major Crimes Unit. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, Fort Worth, Texas.
Back here at home, Honor Flight Kern County is once again underway with dozens of veterans on board. Flight 41 took off from Meadows Field Airport this morning. More than 100 veterans of the Vietnam War era are on their way to Washington, D.C. They'll have a tour of the Capitol and the monuments built in honor of their service. 17's Tabitha Mills was live at Meadows Field this morning during sunrise as the vets got ready for takeoff.
I'm going back to celebrate not only with the brothers and sisters that died during that time, but the brothers and sisters that are here that are making the flight back. It's going to be wonderful. I'm not going back to sorrow. I'm going back for joyful to help and understand what was going on at that time.
They're expected to return at 8 p.m. on Wednesday. And, of course, Honor Flight Kern County is asking people to come out and help welcome those veterans home. 17th Atom Wallace will travel with Honor Flight, and you'll be able to catch his reports from this trip on 17 News in the coming days. The Turkish offensive in Syria continues, who the Kurds are turning to for help as U.S. troops pull out. Plus, 2 new studies point to things both moms and dads do that could increase the risk of a miscarriage. Your 17 Health Watch is after the break. We're back in your 17 Health Watch this afternoon. New research suggests that what you eat may wreak havoc on your skin. Researchers studied data from more than 6,700 people across North and South America as well as Europe. They found those who had acne were more likely to consume dairy products, sodas, pastries, and other sweets on a daily basis. They were also more likely to be exposed to pollution and stress than those without acne. Tobacco use did not appear to have an influence on the skin condition. Suicide attempts among black teens are on the rise. That's according to a new study from NYU. Researchers looked at survey results from nearly 200,000 high school students between 1991 and 2017. They found suicide attempts increased among black teens, far exceeding their white and Hispanic peers. The study also showed 1 in 5 adolescents of any race think about suicide, and 1 in 10 has a suicide plan. New research from Boston University reveals a link between male marijuana use and miscarriage. Scientists looked at data from 1,400 couples. They found men who used marijuana less than once a week had a 7% increased risk of pregnancy loss. That risk was doubled when men smoked pot more frequently. Experts say marijuana may affect sperm quality. There's a lot of conflicting information about whether caffeine is safe for expectant moms. Now, a new government study suggests it may increase the risk of miscarriage. The study included 1,200 women who reported their caffeine intake before conception and early in pregnancy. And there was a slightly higher risk of miscarriage among those who drank 2 or more caffeinated beverages a day. All right, we're checking out your forecast. It's going to be a beautiful week. Kev?
Yeah, it is going to be a pretty nice week. Lots of sunshine, cooler weather on the way. Couldn't ask for a better forecast. Right now, still holding on to 73 degrees for the Bakersfield area, and winds have been light throughout the morning. They're calm now. As we take a look at other temperatures to start off our afternoon, 72 in Delano and Wasco, Taft at 75, and then we have 60s and 70s in the mountains. Tehachapi at 66 right now, 74 for Lake Isabella, 75 out of Ridgecrest. 72 and sunny out in Wasco right now. Arvin looking just as nice, and 74. And up in the mountains, Golden Hills, 65 degrees under clear, beautiful conditions. And you can see around the state, not much to show you. We did see some morning fog along the coastal areas this morning. That has cleared on out. Sunny skies expected there. Right now, we've got 62 out of San Francisco, near 70 in Fresno, and lower 70s down to the south in L.A. and San Diego, just to the east of us. Vegas checking in at 74 and 83 out of Phoenix. Daytime highs today, not bad, with the lower 80s out of Sacramento and Fresno, lower 60s along the coast, and then down to the south, we're looking at 73 in Los Angeles, lower 80s in Vegas, and upper 80s out of Phoenix. Now, the beach is looking great. They did see some fog this morning, mid-60s out of Pismo. This afternoon, a west-southwest wind right around 5 to 10. The rip current risk will remain moderate. Sunny skies in Morro Bay, and a high today of 63. A light wind out of the west-northwest, 5 to 10. Here's a look at the pattern. We've got one trough exiting the area. A little bit of ridging will take place the next few days here, but then by Thursday, you can see another long trough is developing. Unfortunately, it's not going to bring rain our direction. It'll maybe bring a few high clouds, but it will bring in some cooler weather, and also the winds will pick up into the mountains. So here's what we can expect. I'll spell it all out for you. Sunny skies continue with near normal temperatures. Now, that next trough I was talking about will bring in that cooler air and also breezy weather by Thursday. Next week, it looks like more ridging could play into our forecast. That means fire weather could return by early next week with warm temperatures and also low humidities once again. So we'll be watching for that next week. And in terms of your air quality today, going to be moderate with an AQI right at 80. And your forecast today calling for another sunny, beautiful day. 82 in Bakersfield, 81 in Delano and McFarland, 80 in Taft. Tonight, you'll be back in the 40s to lower 50s. For the mountains in the Kern River Valley, sunny skies, a northwest wind, 5 to 10, 69 in Frazier Park, 71 out of Tehachapi. 70s and 80s for the Kern River Valley, 78 in Kernville, 80 Lake Isabella, 76 in Woburn Heights, and then for the desert, a northeast wind, 10 to 15. Lots of sunshine, 70s to lower 80s, and 77 in Mojave. Your extended forecast looks like this. 80s will continue through Wednesday, and then those 70s on the board Thursday through Sunday. As we take a look at the mountain forecast, a little bit on the breezy side, again, starting Thursday throughout your weekend. 70s through mid part of the week, and then 60s will be back Thursday through your weekend. And the Kern River Valley forecast keeping you in the 80s through Wednesday. 70s return by Thursday. In the Kern River Valley, we're looking for a breeze Saturday and Sunday. So overall, pretty nice forecast. Next week could be a different story in terms of the fire weather. So we'll see what happens there.
All right. Thanks so much, Kev.
Yep.
When coupling up, should that include your finances? We'll take a look at the pros and cons of joint accounts. That's coming up after the break.
KGET Business Watch is brought to you by Grapevine MSP Technology Services, the Valley's leading IT service provider.
Back now in your 17 Business Watch, and stocks are a little changed today as doubts emerge about the China-U.S. trade agreement. The Dow was down just about 13 points. The Nasdaq was unchanged at last check, and the S&P 500 was down 2 points. Let's take a look at oil prices while we're at it. West Texas Intermediate, $53.35 a barrel this afternoon, and Midway Sunset started the day at $58.45 a barrel. Time's running out if you filed an extension on your 2018 tax return. The deadline to file is tomorrow. Taxpayers who filed for an extension got more time to work on their returns, but still had to pay any taxes owed by April 15th. If you're someone who filed for an extension and think you'll miss tomorrow's deadline, you'll have to pay a 5% failure to file penalty. The 2018 tax season was a complicated one for accountants and filers. It was the first time taxpayers submitted returns under the new tax law. It nearly doubled the standard deduction, eliminated personal exemptions, and put new limits on certain itemized deductions. Tech fans are gearing up for Google's official launch of its new iPhone. The Pixel 4 is set to be unveiled at an event in New York City tomorrow. A lot's already known about the new phone, including that it will have 2 rear cameras and come in standard and XL sizes. The Pixel 4 will also feature more secure facial recognition and the use of air gestures. Beyond the Pixel, Google's also expected to show off a 13.3-inch touchscreen laptop called the Pixelbook Go, a Google Watch, and an update to its Nest Mini speaker system. Some couples who've decided to share their lives together are still struggling with one aspect of that agreement: the finances. Specifically, just how much financial freedom should each partner have to give up? More from NBC's Chris Clackham.
Sharing a single bank account with your partner still makes sense with most American couples.
There's streamlined access, which allows you to jointly pay bills, car bills, house bills, and credit card bills together and see what that's all about.
But if that account is the only account, there can be a downside.
At the same time, you might not want to have a joint banking account if one of you has a credit problem or is deep in debt. You might want to separate your accounts so you're both not dragged into that debt spiral.
Caleb Silver is a business writer and editor-in-chief at Investopedia.com and says taking a hybrid approach has become popular.
You can have a joint account but still have a separate account on your own to do the things that you want to do and manage your own finances.
That approach also works when helping other loved ones.
Sometimes it makes sense to have a joint account with an elder parent if you're taking care of them, taking care of their health care bills or paying their bills for them.
He says joint accounts contribute to financial fidelity, being open with your partner about spending so that the joint venture of life together can be a smoother one. Chris Clackham, NBC News.
The latest from Syria as U.S. troops pull out and Turkish forces move in after this. Welcome back. In world news, U.S. troops have been ordered out of Syria. With no one left to turn to and under attack, Kurds of Syria have turned to the Syrian army for help. But the threats aren't over yet. NBC's Richard Engel reports from Syria.
U.S. allies, the Kurds of Syria, celebrating the arrival of their old adversary, the Syrian army of President Bashar al-Assad. They had no other choice. Just hours earlier, the Trump administration announced that nearly all of the remaining 1,000 U.S. troops in Syria will be leaving soon, leaving the Kurds armed with only light and medium weapons, effectively defenseless. President Trump appearing to wash his hands of the Kurds and this war, tweeting, "The Kurds and Turkey have been fighting for years. Others may want to come in and fight for one side or the other. Let them." It couldn't have come at a worse time. The Kurds, who fought with U.S. forces against ISIS for 4 years, are also under attack by Turkish-backed militias. Militias accused of atrocities. U.S. officials tell NBC News the militias include former members of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. While it may seem unbelievable, it appears Turkey, a NATO country, used alleged terrorists as shock troops against U.S. allies, the Kurds, until they collapsed and had to call on President Assad to be their savior. Now, with Turkish forces, Turkish-backed militia, and the government troops of Bashar al-Assad all on the advance, it puts more pressure on U.S. forces here in northern Syria. They have orders to leave, but say they will do so in a deliberate manner and always protect themselves. Richard Engel, NBC News, northern Syria.
KCSO is warning people to watch out for scammers posing to work for a local church. The sheriff's office says callers pretend to work with Sacred Heart Church off Taft Highway. The caller asks for gift card donations to help parishioners. But the church says they don't do that. The sheriff's office is urging anyone who was scammed in this way to call 861-3110. When we come back here on 17 News at noon, a regatta you're only going to see this time of year with a boat that riders just hope will stay afloat.
Welcome back. Finally at noon, pumpkin carving has a different meaning in the small town of Damariscotta. I think I said that. It's in Maine, where people like to carve out all the types of giant pumpkins, climb inside, and go racing down the river.
Would you be up for it? Racing down the river inside a pumpkin?
I didn't know a pumpkin could float that well.
I mean, sure, if it's hollowed out, right?
Well, I guess. They're still heavy, though.
Already getting ready for Monday's annual pumpkin regatta because it takes a while to carve out that pumpkin. Some of these giant pumpkins weigh more than 1,400 pounds. So, well, they don't go too fast unless, of course, you attach a motor, which, hey, some do. So there you go. If you see any pumpkins floating down the Kern River, let us know. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back tonight at 5 and 6.
The Kern River.
17 News, your local news leader, continues 24 hours a day on KGET.com and our 17 News app. In the spirit of the Golden Empire, 17 News.